Bhagavad-gītā, chapter 10, text 11. teṣām evānukampārtham aham ajñāna-jaṁ tamaḥ nāśayāmy ātma-bhāva-stho jñāna-dīpena bhāsvatā. teṣām, for them. For who? So it's a continuation, right? teṣām satatayuktānām bhajatāṃ prītipūrvakam dadāmi buddhiyogam tam yena māṃ upayānti. So this teṣām, reduce the volume a little bit. It's resounding like anything. Bhajatāṃ prītipūrvakam. These people, who are they? To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love. To those who are constantly serving me with love. So, to them. Eva, certainly. Anukampārtham, to show special mercy. Aham, I. Ajñāna-jaṁ, due to ignorance. Tamaḥ, darkness. Nāśayāmy, dispel. Ātma-bhāva, within their hearts. Stha, situated. Jnana, of knowledge. Dīpena, with the lamp. Bhāsvatā, glowing. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: to show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Please repeat. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Purport. When Lord Chaitanya was in Benares promulgating the chanting of Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, thousands of people were following him. Prakāśānanda Saraswati, a very influential and learned scholar in Benares at that time, derided Lord Chaitanya for being a sentimentalist. Sometimes Mayavadi philosophers criticize the devotees because they think that most of the devotees are in the darkness of ignorance and are philosophically naive sentimentalists. Actually, that is not the fact. There are very, very learned scholars who have put forward the philosophy of devotion. But even if a devotee does not take advantage of their literatures or of his spiritual master, if he is sincere in his devotional service, he is helped by Kṛṣṇa himself within his heart. So the sincere devotee engaged in Kṛṣṇa consciousness cannot be without knowledge. The only qualification is that one carry out devotional service in full Kṛṣṇa consciousness. The Mayavadi philosophers think that without discriminating one cannot have pure knowledge. For them, this answer is given by the Supreme Lord. Those who are engaged in pure devotional service, even though they be without sufficient education and even without sufficient knowledge of the Vedic principles, are still helped by the Supreme God as stated in this verse. The Lord tells Arjuna that basically there is no possibility of understanding the Supreme Truth, the Absolute Truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, simply by speculating, for the Supreme Truth is so great that it is not possible to understand Him or to achieve Him simply by making a mental effort. A man can go on speculating for several millions of years, and if he is not devoted, if he is not a lover of the Supreme Truth, he will never understand Kṛṣṇa or the Supreme Truth. Only by devotional service is the Supreme Truth, Kṛṣṇa, pleased and by his inconceivable energy, he can reveal himself to the heart of the pure devotee. The pure devotee always has Kṛṣṇa within his heart, and with the presence of Kṛṣṇa, who is just like the sun, the darkness of ignorance is at once dissipated. This is the special mercy rendered to the pure devotee by Kṛṣṇa. Due to the contamination of material association through many, many millions of births, one's heart is always covered with the dust of materialism. But when one engages in devotional service and constantly chants Hare Krishna, the dust quickly clears and one is elevated to the platform of pure knowledge. The ultimate goal, Vishnu, can be attained only by this chant and by devotional service, and not by mental speculation or argument. The pure devotee does not have to worry about the material necessities of life. He need not be anxious, because when he removes the darkness from his heart, everything is provided automatically by the Supreme Lord, who is pleased by the loving devotional service of the devotee. This is the essence of the teachings of Bhagavad-gītā. By studying Bhagavad-gītā, one can become a soul completely surrendered to the Supreme Lord and engage himself in pure devotional service. As the Lord takes charge, one becomes completely free from all kinds of materialistic endeavors. So this verse is the last verse of the Chatushloki Bhagavad-gītā. So as you know, the Bhagavad-gītā, how many verses are there in total? What? How many? 700. So, that 700 verses are summarized in these 4 verses from 10.8 to 10.11. And therefore, this is called the Chatushloki Bhagavad-gītā. The entire Bhagavad-gītā is compressed in these 4 verses. And similarly, there is the Chatushloki Bhagavatam as well, which is 2nd Canto 9 chapter 33 to 36th verse. So, this is the last of this Chatushloki Bhagavad-gītā. I have explained about the summary of the Chatushloki Bhagavad-gītā altogether while I was doing the 10.8 class. You can maybe go to the YouTube channel and watch back that part. So I'm not going to repeat myself here. So teṣām evānukampārtham aham ajñāna-jaṁ tamaḥ nāśayāmy ātma-bhāva-stho jñāna-dīpena bhāsvatā. So for teṣām means for them, and who is that? For those who serve the Supreme Lord with love and devotion. To them, evānukampārtham. Anukampa means mercy. Artham means for the purpose of. For the purpose of showing mercy to them, he removes or dispels the darkness in the heart with the torchlight of knowledge. In other words, only for those who serve Kṛṣṇa, engage in his service, they can have access to the knowledge of Kṛṣṇa. I cannot understand Bhagavad-gītā through academic study. In university, in the humanities department, there is philosophy. Sometimes they do Bachelor of Philosophy, Masters of Philosophy. So, the philosophy, they study academically. That will not help in understanding Bhagavad-gītā. Because there are so many academicians who, both in Bharat and also in the West, who have studied and commented upon Bhagavad-gītā, but they get it all wrong. Classic example is Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, who was a Sanskrit scholar and the first president of India. He wrote a tika, or a commentary on the Bhagavad-gītā. He came to the impersonal understanding that ultimately God is not a person, which Kṛṣṇa categorically denies multiple places in the Bhagavad-gītā. So, the rahasya of this Bhagavad-gītā, or the secret of this Bhagavad-gītā, is not in the Sanskrit. Sometimes people say that I understand better in my mother tongue. It feels more close to my heart. That's not the secret. The secret is that it should be heard from a pure devotee. If it is heard from the wrong person, even if it is in their own mother tongue, you will not understand. The secret is in the transmission by the pure devotee. See, Kṛṣṇa says in the 4th chapter, 3rd verse, Sa evāyam maya tedya yogah proktaha puratanaha bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam hyetaduttamam. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you because you are my devotee as well as my friend and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. So because Arjuna was a devotee and friend of Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa was favorably disposed to him. And because Kṛṣṇa was favorably disposed, that rahasya or secret is revealed to Arjuna. Not because of any of the qualifications of Arjuna. So, then why should we read or why should we study, why should we do anything? If Kṛṣṇa is pleased with me, he will give me the knowledge anyway. What is the use of my endeavor? Well, my endeavor is to please Kṛṣṇa. Once he is pleased, then he will reveal the knowledge. But our endeavor is to please Kṛṣṇa, nothing else. In the beginning, one does not have such a strong feeling towards Kṛṣṇa yet. So he may be curious to know what is the truth. So with that, he may read the Bhagavad-gītā. Even then, it is all right because at least he is hearing from the right person through the right channel. Because Bhagavad-gītā are the same words, Krishna's words. But if you hear from a wrong person, you will not understand. You may say, no, it is Krishna's words after all, why can't we understand? If Kṛṣṇa wants me to understand, he will make me understand. Yes, if Kṛṣṇa wants you to understand, he will make you understand. But when will Kṛṣṇa want you to understand? That is the question. Sometimes people assume out of pride that they have some direct connection with Kṛṣṇa, and if Kṛṣṇa wants me to understand, he will let me understand. Yeah, that's true. But when will Kṛṣṇa want you to understand? If he is pleased with you, and Kṛṣṇa is describing very clearly here, when he will be pleased with us. So if we follow that, then yes, he will be pleased with us. He won't be pleased with us just because we want him to be pleased with us. No, devotional service, not only devotional service, everything works on his terms, not on ours. Not on ours. We may have, even materially speaking, we may have a desire and we may work towards it and it may become fulfilled, and people start writing books. How to fulfill your desires, the art of manifestation, or hard work is the key to success. Nothing is the key to success other than the sanction of the Lord. Okay? If despite all hard work, did Hiranyakashipu not do hard work? I don't think any of us can match his hard work. The tapasya that he went through for 100 years on one leg, on the tips of his toes. Try standing on the tips of your toes. Won't last 1 second. He stood there like that for 100 years with his hands raised, and insects ate up his body. Only the bones were remaining. Still he did not die. For 100 years. With that, he did not eat, sleep, nothing. Not drink. Who can work harder than him? No, nobody. Or even Ravana. He also did great tapasya to satisfy Lord Shiva, Hiranyakashipu to satisfy Brahma. Here we may try to, work hard to satisfy some government officer or somebody. They try to satisfy Lord Brahma and Shiva, one of the masters of the universal management. And so we cannot match. But still, hard work was not the key to success. Because the Lord's sanction was elsewhere. He sanctioned the devotees' progress and not the materialists or the demon's progress. And demon does not mean that he has some horns and fierce looking. In fact, quite the opposite. Demons, they were very expert at hiding their evil nature. They're very crooked. So, Ravana and Hiranyakashipu, they were very qualified materially, extremely qualified. In every single thing they were qualified, except one thing, they were against the Lord. So, sanction of the Lord is the secret. Now, when does Lord sanction such benediction, or this person can understand me, this person can approach me? When he is satisfied. So Kṛṣṇa is giving us instructions on how he will be satisfied. What can we do to satisfy him? And if we follow such instruction, then he will reveal. You may think, well, I don't know if I truly understand that, because if I am reading Bhagavad-gītā as it is by Prabhupada, I am understanding. It is because of my reading that I am understanding. Actually, there is more going on. When you read, because you have lent an ear to Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa is pleased, and therefore he reveals their understanding. Right? So, and even to have the brain power to understand, the intelligence to understand, Kṛṣṇa has to give you. Many times, there are so many people who get Alzheimer's disease or dementia. They lose their brain power over time. And if some stroke happens one day, snap in the brain, we cannot have our intelligence. We are so proud that I can do this, it is within my capability. Actually, we are just given these things. This is not something we have achieved. Kṛṣṇa gave it to us and He's keeping it intact. And therefore we are so confident on Kṛṣṇa's without our knowing, we are so confident on Kṛṣṇa's ability to keep it intact that we even make promises based on our capabilities. Oh, I can do this. Or I book a ticket and I say, I'll reach there at about tomorrow morning, 7 o'clock. I don't know what is going to happen. I don't know. We have taken so many things for granted from here to tomorrow morning. And all those things that we took for granted, that my journey to the airport will be without any mishap, my flight will be without any mishap, and from there to that person's place without any mishap, or I won't have any health complications, serious health complications, anything, or somebody may not attack me. So many things we take for granted which are not in our control. We hope that these things stay constant and therefore my plan works. So these things stay constant because of the will of the Lord, not because of anything else. Like the ocean. People go and relax on the beach. They're at the cusp of the greatest danger. The ocean is so vast and so powerful that it can inundate anything. The entire landmass of the earth can be inundated by the oceans. It's way more bigger than the entire landmass put together. But we are going there to relax, lying down. So, on what? On the assurance of who? Kṛṣṇa. Because if the Lord wants, the ocean can just completely swallow the entire land. Tsunami. And when Kṛṣṇa does that, we will think, oh, that is so. But Kṛṣṇa can do that anytime. It is His mercy that, in fact, the other day I was reading, fascinating. There is a quotation from Taittiriya Upanishad, which says that every night when we sleep, we are able to sleep because of Kṛṣṇa. And what happens when we sleep? The soul goes and merges with the Paramatma in the heart. And the Paramatma shelters the soul. We are not controlling our heartbeat when we are sleeping. We don't know anything. How is it beating? The science tells involuntary muscles, we have heard in primary school. What is involuntary muscle? When you get a twitch, that's involuntary movement of the muscle. You mean you are having spasms? You're having like fits or what? What is that? Involuntary muscle. It is not, yes, it is not voluntarily done by you. When you lift something, you're voluntarily doing it. But the heart muscles, you're not doing anything. Who's doing it then? It's the Lord. And it is said there that just as at the end of Brahma's creation, the entire universe is destroyed, what happens to the Atmas that are still in this material world? They don't go to the spiritual world, they don't go to the Vaikuntha because they're not eligible to do so. They merge in the body of Mahavishnu, who is lying down in the Karana ocean, Karanudakashaya Vishnu. And all the creation is withdrawn. And we stay there in suspension for 311 trillion 40 billion years. After which again the universes will be created by his exhalation. When he inhales, everything is destroyed. When he exhales, everything comes into existence. So we emerge at the time of universal devastation, we emerge in the body of Mahavishnu. At the time of partial devastation, which happens every night of Brahma, when Brahma sleeps every night, until Svargaloka, everything is underwater. There is a water which is not just on earth, which is the 1/2 of the entire universe at the bottom. And Garbhodakashaya Vishnu lies down there. Now we have no vision to see this. When we look into the sky, we will never be able to find out. Because even Brahma could not find out when he was the only person in the universe. He was born on a lotus flower that emerged from the navel of the Lord. And when he was born, it was pitch dark everywhere. He did not know where he was. And he tried to look around, nothing he could find. And he found the stem, the wall of the lotus, and he tried to go down the stem to see where is the end. He could not reach the end after 100 years. And then he became fearful because it was so dark. Imagine going into a tunnel so dark. You don't have a torchlight, nothing. And then you're just going for 100 years. He was scared. He came back up again 100 years. And then he heard the words tapa. Then he did tapasya. How would he even understand what is tapa? Tapa means? Well, again, Kṛṣṇa has to give the intelligence for him to understand. And then he did tapasya for 100 years. And then, when he opened his eyes, the Lord was there, gigantic form of the Lord. And he could see the lotus flower from his abdomen, from his navel, and on that lotus flower he was sitting. Why couldn't he see earlier, when he was born? Because we have to be qualified. And because the Lord said not because of his tapasya he could see the Lord. Because the Lord said tapa, and by such tapasya he pleased the Lord. Because he followed the instruction, the Lord decided, okay, I will favor this person. And therefore, it always works on the favor of the Lord, nothing else. What we learn in science as laws are just the will of the Lord, nothing else. For example, in our primary school, we learned, through photosynthesis, plants make nutrients taken from the sun and from the earth, everything. They grow, right? Photosynthesis. And the chlorophyll in the leaves, and that forms the green color, and blah, blah, blah. We talk as if it's all very deterministic. This is how it happens, yeah. Well, why does it happen like that? If we ask that, you may say, no, because of chlorophyll. Because chlorophyll does this, it traps the sun rays and makes it into nutrient. Fine. Why is it happening that way? Why not any other way? Why not a blue color? Why not a red? Why not? Because the Lord wills so. It is a sweet will of the Lord. That's it. The cow eats grass, which hardly has any nutrients, and produces milk, which is full of nutrients. What is happening? The will of the Lord. When the mother is bearing the child in the womb, she has no milk. But once the child comes out, there is immediately milk in her breast. Where from? She has no control. As the Lord supplies. The Lord is maintaining everyone. The Lord is maintaining the baby as well. And once the baby has come out, immediately there is arrangement for the baby's nutrition. So we take so many things for granted, and talk as if it is the laws of, oh, the laws of gravity, Newtonian laws of gravity. Well, Newton did not invent them. Gravity was working from time immemorial. It's always there. It's Kṛṣṇa's laws of gravity. And he was not the first one to find out about it as well. Our sages, our Vedic times, everybody knew. So, scientific discoveries, inventions are possible because of the Lord. Because the scientists take so many things for granted and they know that this is the law and therefore they try to experiment within those laws. Who keeps those laws constant? On whose power are they staying constant? It is the Lord's power. So anyway, this is the thing, that it is only by the will of the Lord that anything can happen, even our understanding. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. So, devotional service starts with Shravanam, hearing. When we hear, then the Lord becomes pleased with us. And that's why we will understand. Then what if somebody is trying to understand something which is not so nice? Why does the Lord make him understand when it is going to be bad? When he's trying to learn coding in order to hack something, say, for example, do some mischievous thing. Why is the Lord allowing him? When Lord gives the facility for us to do whatever we want with our senses. And it is our choice, and we will have to pay for our choices. So that independence he will not leave. He will not snatch that independence from us. He graciously keeps it intact. This is your individuality, your independence. You can choose to love me or not. And when you don't, then the modes of material nature takes over, the tamogun, rajogun, sattvagun, and then eventually we will go down. So, having understood this, so teṣām evānukampārtham, anukampa, the Lord's mercy. Please don't talk during the class. The Lord's mercy is the only factor, right? That is understood now. Now, aham ajñāna-jaṁ tamaḥ, nāśayāmy, ātma-bhāva-stho. So, I will destroy the darkness born of ignorance. What is ignorance? We have to understand every single word so that we understand the full context. When we say the Lord removes the ignorance with the torchlight of knowledge, what is the ignorance? How do we define ignorance? Anybody? What is the definition of ignorance? What? Nobody knows? What is the definition? To not know, first of all, who we are and who is God. And sometimes when we come to Kṛṣṇa consciousness, we may think we know. We have heard it a million times that we are not the body, we're not the body, we're not the body, and yet we look into the mirror and think that this is me. Every single day. So, we haven't understood. We haven't understood the first lessons of Bhagavad-gītā. Now, let's see the levels of ignorance. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 20, Text 18. Sasarja chhāyaya vidyam pancha parvāṇam tāmisram andhatāmisram tamo moho mahatamaḥ. First of all, Brahma created from his shadow the coverings of ignorance of the conditioned souls. They are 5 in number and are called Tāmisra, Andhatamisra, Tamas, Moha and Mahamoha. 5 levels of ignorance. Okay, let's read the purport. So the purport is actually from these 2 verses. Vishnu Puran. These definitions are very nicely given in the Vishnu Puran, wherein it is said, Tamo viveko moha syad antah karana vibhramaha mahamohastu vigneyo gramya bhoga sukhaishana maranam hyandhatamisram tamisram krodha uchyate avidya pancha parvaisha pradurbhuta mahatmanah. Okay. The conditioned souls or living entities who come to the material world to enjoy sense gratification are covered in the beginning by 5 different conditions. The first condition is a covering of tāmisra or anger. Constitutionally, each and every living entity has minute independence. It is misuse of that minute independence for the conditioned soul to think that he can also enjoy like the Supreme Lord, or to think, why shall I not be a free enjoyer like the Supreme Lord? This is the beginning of our material existence. And when we thought like this, we were sent into this material world. When it happened? Time immemorial. We cannot even remember. Anadi karma phale podi bhavarnava jale. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying. Anadi karma phale. Anadi means there's no trace in history when this happened. So long. So why shall I not be a free enjoyer of like the Supreme Lord? So we envied the Supreme Lord. We became jealous of the Supreme Lord, and that is out of anger. Yeah. So when we had that tāmisra, that was the beginning of our material life. So this forgetfulness of his constitutional position. What is constitutional position? That means our original position. Like, in a country there is constitution. So according to constitution, this is the law. That is the original way to do it. But people, may break the law and everything, and that's when judicial system has to come and put it right, punish those who transgress the law. So constitutional position, our original position is to be a servant of Kṛṣṇa. That is our Jiver Swarup hoy Kṛṣṇer Nitya Das. This forgetfulness of its constitutional position is due to anger or envy. The living entity, being eternally a part and parcel servitor of the Supreme Lord, can never, by constitution, be an equal enjoyer with the Lord. When he forgets this, however, and tries to be one with him, his condition is called tāmisra. Even in the field of spiritual realization, this tāmisra mentality of the living entity is hard to overcome. In trying to get out of the entanglement of material life, there are many who want to be one with the Supreme. Even in their transcendental activities, this lower grade mentality of tāmisra continues. Next, andha tāmisra. Andha tāmisra involves considering death to be the ultimate end. Modern civilization, this is exactly what we are taught. Death is the ultimate end. You got one shot at it, at life, live it to the fullest. This is their idea. So andha tāmisra involves considering death to be the ultimate end. So first we started with envy of the Lord, then we were put into this material world, and then the next covering, which is the fear of death. And in fact, as much as we think that, death will happen one day, we don't think about it. Subliminally, we have a fear of death constantly. We have a fear of death constantly. Why do we work? Because if I don't work, I have no food on my plate, I will die. And therefore we work. So it is based off of that fear. Everything that we do, we have insurance because we fear death. We move to a country where there is more safety than others because we fear death. All our choices, we may not explicitly think about death per se, but that is the driving factor of every decision we make. And we, sometimes youth, especially when they are trying to make career choices, they think a lot of what to do, what not to do. Why? Because they think there is one life and I don't want to mess it up. Because there is death. Death is the ultimate end. And I don't want to mess my life up, and therefore let me evaluate my choices, vagara vagara. So it's all, if you look at it, everything is fueled by the fear of death. The atheists generally think that the body is the self. And when we say the atheists, we should understand that we do have a flavor of atheism. If we are absolute theists, we shouldn't be here in the material world. We will be in the Vaikuntha. They are absolute theists, complete faith in Krishna. We are here, that means we are not completely free of that. So the atheism is still continuing as we are becoming Krishna conscious. The atheism part of ours is reducing, and our Krishna consciousness part is increasing. It's proportionate. How much advancement we make, that much our atheistic tendencies will decrease. The very fact that I don't want to chant, say 16 rounds, or want to follow or want to read, it is atheism. It's the result of atheism. Because I don't have enough regard for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. I don't think him to be too important in my life. Therefore, I only come once a weekend. Or once in a year, maybe for a Janmashtami festival. Oh, I have come for Janmashtami, Prabhuji. Do you remember me? Well, I don't. Because how can I remember? Thousands of people came. But they think there is a big act of devotion. It is good. I'm not saying bad. But how long are you going to stay there in that once a year? So we have to make more endeavor. Because we hold our family too dear, we work day and night every day for them. And we hold our body too dear, and therefore we work every night and day for it. But we don't consider Krishna as dear as anything else, or as dear as our own body or our family. Which is why it is the optional part of life, which is once in 3 months, quarterly once a month, once in 2 weeks, or even once a week. It should be every day, all day. That should be the standard. Satatam kirtayanto mam, ananyas chintayanto mam. These are the words used. Where there is not a second which is engaged in forgetfulness of Krishna. That is the standard. How far am I? I may say, Prabhu, not that because I'm not coming to temple, I'm not being Krishna conscious. I'm doing at home. Well, we cannot have the same mood as in the temple. It is good. I mean, we should do at home. Whoever is at home, they should do at home every day. Not that I come Mangalarti once a week. In fact, that also I don't see. Many devotees are not doing it. They don't come here for Mangalarti, which you should. You should. How long are you going to stay without Mangalarti? Then your life is amangal. There is no mangal in your life. Mangal means what? Auspiciousness. So if at the Brahma Muhurta we don't wake up and associate with devotees and participate in the program, where is the mangal? So we should, at least once a week, if not more. That's why some devotees have moved here. So now they are coming every day, which is good, which is how it should be. So for those who can't, at least once a week or twice a week, I mean Saturday, Sunday, when I'm not going to the office or something, at least come. That should be done. What was I going to show? I forgot myself. So anyway, let's continue with the purport. So this is, we have to, that atheism is still there in us, So we should come to the point of doing everything for and on behalf of Krishna. Prabhupada very nicely explained this, not explained, used this phrase in one of his Back to God articles. Krishna consciousness means to act for and on behalf of Krishna. It's not just for Krishna, because sometimes I think I'm doing it for Krishna. How do you know Krishna wants it? How do you know Krishna wants what you're doing? So, first of all, instead of speculating what I want to do and do it for Krishna, do it on behalf of Krishna. That means, first of all, take the order from Krishna and then execute it for his pleasure. That is the right way to do. And how do I take the order from Krishna? Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado. Yasya prasadan nagatih kutopi. The spiritual master is the external manifestation of the Paramatma. Let me show you that. See, नैवोपयन्त्यपचितिं कवयस्तवेश ब्रह्मायुषापि कृतमृद्धमुदः स्मरन्तः योऽन्तर्बहिस्तनुभृताम् अशुभं विधुन्वन् आचार्यचैत्यवपुषा स्वगतिं व्यनक्ति. O my Lord, transcendental poets and experts in spiritual science could not fully express their indebtedness to you, you with a capital Y, Kṛṣṇa. Even if they were endowed with the prolonged lifetime of Brahma, they could not express their indebtedness to you. Why? For you appear in two features, externally as the Acharya and internally as the Super Soul, Paramatma, to deliver the embodied living being by directing him how to come to you. And you see this Adi 148. 148 is the same. Let's go to 147 if I'm not wrong. Let's see this. You see, शिक्षा गुरु के ट जानी कृष्णेर स्वरूप अंतर्जामी भक्त श्रेष्ठ ei dui रूप. What is this? In Bengali, one should know the instructing spiritual master, Shiksha Guru, to be the personality of God, personality of Kṛṣṇa. Lord Kṛṣṇa manifests himself as the super soul, Paramatma, and as the greatest devotee of the Lord. So Prabhupada, when he is instructing us, we should understand that Kṛṣṇa is directly instructing us. Kṛṣṇa comes, Paramatma, because a pure devotee can directly communicate with the Paramatma in the heart. He can have conversations with Kṛṣṇa just as we can have conversations with each other. A pure devotee can do that. We don't have such intimate relation with the Lord. Sometimes we think we have. Sometimes, one lady came, this was about before COVID, 2018, 2019, sir. So she came and said, I consider Kṛṣṇa my brother. I always talk to him. Well, did he talk to you? Yeah, he also, gives me so many indications. Hello, don't speculate. That's not how it goes. We cannot imitate a pure devotee. We first have to take the order of the Guru. Kṛṣṇa says in the Adi Quran to Arjuna, Ye me bhakta janah partha. Ye me bhakta janah partha. Na me bhaktastate jana. Whoever considers himself my devotee, I do not consider him my devotee. Kṛṣṇa says, I first of all reject him. Mad bhaktanam cha ye bhaktas te me bhakta tamamata. Once he becomes a devotee of my devotee, servant of my devotee, then I begin to recognize him as my devotee. So if I want to become a devotee, I have to go through Kṛṣṇa's devotee first. It's hubris to think that Kṛṣṇa will, I can talk directly with Kṛṣṇa. No, Kṛṣṇa is not going to respond. We cannot be, that is pride, too much pride. Until yesterday I was rascal, whole lifetimes upon lifetimes I have gone against Kṛṣṇa and humiliated, ridiculed him, humiliated him so much. Kṛṣṇa is waiting and waiting and waiting, and we are just ignoring him all the time. We ignored him, and suddenly today I am such a great devotee that Kṛṣṇa is talking to me. How dare I think like that? That is complete lack of humility. In fact, Rupa Goswami, let me show you this verse. Okay. Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, you know who they are? They were the greatest of scholars 500 years ago. Disciples of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You know what they said? Let's read what they said. Okay. I think Patita Adhama. What is that? Where is that verse? Okay. कुविषय विष्ठा गर्ते दिया छे फैलाया, मोर कर्म मोर हाथे गलाए बांधिया, कुविषय विष्ठा गर्ते दिया छे फैलाया. The two brothers Sakar Malik and Dabir Khas very humbly submitted that due to their abominable activities, they were now bound by the neck and hands and had been thrown into a ditch filled with abominable stool-like objects of material sense enjoyment. So here they say, आमा उद्धारिते बोली नाही त्रिभुवने, पतित पावन तुम्हें शबे तुमा विने. No one within the three worlds is sufficiently powerful to deliver us. You are the only savior of the fallen souls, therefore there is no one but you. Then he says, I'll just take you to that verse. Hmm. 2099, 20? Okay, two times they said this, but yeah, let's go to 2099. Okay. So here also, two times they said this actually. So here, let's see this. नीच जाति नीच संगी पतित अधम, कुविषय कूपे पड़ी गुआइनु जन्म. You see, Sanatana Goswami said, I was born in a low family and my associates are all low class men. I myself am fallen and I am the lowest of men. Indeed, I have passed my whole life fallen in the well of sinful materialism. You know, Sanatana Goswami is none of these. He was, of course, he was working for the Muslim magistrate, and because of which his association was all bad, but he was a great devotee. But he is saying like this. He is saying like this because this is how a devotee should think. A proper devotee should always think that he is fallen. You know, सर्वोत्तम अपना के हीन करि माने. Although a pure devotee's standard is above all, he still considers himself to be in the lowest stage of life. Trinadapi sunichena, tarorapi sahishnuna, amanina, manadena, kirtaniya sadahari. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, in order to be able to chant Hare Krishna always, without stoppage, in order to be Krishna conscious always, one has to be extremely humble. If we are not humble, our ego will not allow us to chant. And how humble? Humbler than the grass. The grass, you can step on it. What does it do? It does not protest. It will just bow down. So, a pure devotee does not take anything seriously. I mean, in the sense, any offense to him seriously. It is too much of a distraction for him to consider anything too seriously in this material world. He is always thinking of Krishna, and whatever comes, whatever insult or whatever suffering that comes in his way, he will just take it as Krishna's way of purging his past sinful reactions and thus purifying him. This is how a devotee takes. And that's what actually a Krishna does for the devotee. So Krishna will also test how much we are devoted. Because sometimes we may think we are big devotees, then Krishna will give us some nice challenge. Then sees whether we are still sticking with Krishna or we are questioning him. Oh, Krishna is there or not? Why, if I am devotee, why these things are happening to me? Well, Pandavas, you ask them that. Pandavas, you ask Pandavas what they went through. You think what you are going through is more than what they went through. And that's why Krishna puts his devotees, his great devotees like the Pandavas, in such great suffering that no one will have any more complaints. If anybody thinks that, oh, they are suffering so much, then think of the devotees. Prahlad Maharaj, you think you can undergo more suffering than Prahlad Maharaj? Haridas Thakur, you think 22 marketplaces publicly beaten with the whips and cane. You think you can, but just because he was chanting Hare Krishna. So you think you can have more suffering than him. So whenever we tend to complain, immediately, if we read enough, Krishna will make us remember all these examples of devotees so that we recalibrate ourselves. No, what is this? Let me just focus on Krishna. I was too distracted. Two things are distractions: suffering and happiness. Both are distractions. Failure, failure and suffering is distraction, but success is a bigger distraction than failure. Because in failure, in pain, you may even pray to Krishna, but in success, you will always think that I did it, I made it. This, and we are so indulging in that happiness that we forget the Lord. In Svargalok, this is what happens. This is why Swarga is very bad compared to earth. Very bad. Everybody wants to have Swarga Prapti. Don't go there. It's a horrible place. You know what the Svargalok people are telling? Take their testimony. Nowadays, everybody wants to see comments first. Comment section. What they're saying first. Right? Let's see the commentary of the comments of the people in demigod. What they say about their place. Kim dushkarairnah kratubhistapō vratair dānādibhirvādyujayena phalguna nayatra nārāyana pāda pankaja smritih pramushtātishayendriyotsavāt. The demigods continue. Comment section, okay? After performing the very difficult tasks of executing Vedic ritualistic sacrifices, undergoing austerities, observing vows, and giving charity, we have achieved this position as inhabitants of the heavenly planets. But what is the value of this achievement? Here, we are certainly very engaged in material sense gratification, and therefore we can hardly remember the lotus feet of Lord Narayan. Indeed, because of our excessive sense gratification, we have almost forgotten his lotus feet. Testimony. I want to go there. Yes, Prabhu, this is nice, no? I can enjoy, I don't need to suffer. No. What they're doing, what is happening is, they're enjoying because of their past vratas, tapas, and all this japa and all the whatever they have done. Now they're enjoying. But while enjoying, they're exhausting their past piety. That's what actually is happening. And eventually they will fall down. And another testimony of the heavenly planets, let's see. If at all you are very much considering to go there. 20, no, not this one. 11:3:20, right? Yeah. Evam lokam param vidyan nashwaram karma nirmitam satulyatishayadvamsam yatha mandalavartinam. 11:3:20 Bhagavatam. One cannot find permanent happiness even on the heavenly planets, which one can attain in the next life by ritualistic ceremonies and sacrifices. Even in material heaven, the living entity is disturbed by rivalry with his equals and envy of those superior to him. Oh, that sounds familiar. That sounds like earth. We have what? Rivalry with the equals, envy of those superior. And since one's residence in heaven is finished with the exhaustion of pious fruitive activities, the denizens of heaven are afflicted by fear, anticipating the destruction of their heavenly life. Thus, they resemble kings who, though enviously admired by ordinary citizens, are constantly harassed by enemy kings and who therefore never attain actual happiness. If you want to go Swarga Prapti, this is the situation there. It's not very promising of giving happiness. It will not. We will not be happy there. Because the soul will always feel empty. So anyway, people don't even have this idea of next term of existence. That is called andhata-misra. Okay. So when they do this demigod worship, that will at least give them the idea that death is not the end. You have afterlife, you go to heaven. There is a little bit of the removal of one by one these coverings. Ultimately, only when one becomes devotee, the tamisra also goes. The anger towards the Lord, the envy towards the Lord goes, and he surrenders. That's why Kṛṣṇa says, Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. After many, many births and deaths of cultivating this spiritual path, one will come to the point he becomes jnanavan. He becomes actually knowledgeable. And that is when he will surrender to Kṛṣṇa, saying that Kṛṣṇa, you are everything. I should have done this long ago, but I'm doing it now. So he does that. And it's not one moment in time, Krishna, I surrender to you. No, it's a state of being. It's not an event in time, it's a state of being. What does that mean? Event in time means at 8:42 p.m. on the 31st of March. Today is 31st? Yeah. 2024. I said, oh, Krishna, I surrender to you. No, it's not like one event in time. It's a state of being. One should always be surrendered. And it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen. If we want, it can happen. Krishna Prabhupada said it can happen in 1 minute. It can happen. But we have to be ready. To one time, the devotees were a little depressed. Because they said, Prabhupada, we have been distributing so many books. We're selling thousands and thousands. But hardly, very few people come to the temple and actually take to this process. Then Prabhupada said, well, your business is to distribute the books. Krishna will decide whether they will come. But then, Krishna, when Prabhupada said, if Krishna wants, he can give you the entire world in 18 days. Because that's what happened to the Pandavas. What did Duryodhana say? Not even the land on which to hold the point of a needle, I will give them. The point of the needle. I will not give them land on which you can place a point of a needle. Do what you want. That was Duryodhana's. In 18 days, the war was finished and the entire world was the Pandavas' property. So in 18 days, they got the entire world. So Prabhupada said, Krishna can give you the entire world in 18 days. But are you ready to handle? So that's what it is. I mean, if the Pandavas, if we are as ready as the Pandavas are, he can give us the entire world. Why is not giving us? Because we cannot handle. So because, why do we need the world? Well, you may ask, hey, we are trying to go away from this world. Why do I need the world? No, it's not about conquering the world for my sense gratification. No. Why did he install the Pandavas as the rulers of the world? At that time, Bharat was the definition of advancement in life, in civilization. Okay? 5,000 years ago. The entire nucleus of the human civilization was in Bharat. Now it has shifted to kind of America as the world power dominating force. But back then it was Bharat. So, the entire world was under the Pandavas. What did the Pandavas do? They ruled the world and made everybody Krishna conscious. If a just ruler is there at the top of the government, he will make sure that everyone becomes God conscious. That was the whole system of Varnashram Dharma. GDP was never the KPI of advancement. GDP, gross domestic product. I mean, the wealth, how much a country makes, that is never the key performing index. So, you have this much, though you are more advanced. That is not the idea. How much people are religious. And automatically, Bharat was also the richest country in the world. Because if we are actually God conscious, Krishna will bless us with natural resources. In fact, even the rain comes because of the devotees. Do you know? You may say, hey, there is rain in other places where there are no devotees. Why? Actually, this is the reason why sometimes Krishna just leaves some devotees in this world. Because at least by thinking of them, I will supply the natural supplies in this world. Sometimes some devotees are there, like somewhere, even now, the two kings who will rule the next Satya Yuga after this Kali Yuga is finished, they are already in India. They are already there, but they are hidden. They will come when Kalki avatar comes, they will come out and they will start ruling the world. This is mentioned in the Bhagavatam. Vyasadeva is still there. Hanuman is still there. Why does he leave these devotees here? When they are not doing seemingly anything there, productive, contribution to the world. They are somewhere hidden in some Himalayan caves, somewhere we don't even know where they are. Why are they there? Kṛṣṇa leaves these devotees because looking at us, we don't qualify for any real mercy of the Lord. We are pathetic. We are hopeless. I mean, the amount of chicken that are being killed in Singapore. You think Singapore can flourish? Billions every year. Billions and trillions of animals are being killed, and it is a miracle that the world is still running so-called not so bad. I mean, we can at least live our lives. I mean, imagine if there was a world where there's anarchy everywhere and people are just shooting and killing and robbing and there's no order. Some countries are like that. Now you see what's happening in Gaza or in Ukraine or Syria, Yemen. All these countries are war torn at the present moment, and countries like North Korea where you cannot say the name of God. There are places like that even in this world at this moment where there is just no hope. Children are losing their parents, and there's no assurance that I'll survive this night. Imagine everywhere such a life. But we are, for the amount of sinful activities that are going on, it's a wonder that the place is still intact. In 2008 there was an earthquake in China, Sichuan earthquake. I think some of you may remember. Very deadly earthquake. I think 9 point something on the Richter scale. Do you know that Sichuan, that place, is known for its culinary expertise? That means the food from that place is known the world over, especially in Chinese. I mean, Sichuan means the hub of food in China. All kinds of dishes come from there. And you know what is Chinese food? There's a joke, in the rest of the world, it's not a racist thing, but it's just an observation. Anything that moves, they eat. Anything that moves, they eat. If you go to China and Thailand and all these places, grasshoppers, anything, cockroach, whatever moves, they eat. These kind of places. Horrible means horrible. Stinks like hell. Killing thousands and thousands, and that is the hub of food, and everywhere, oh, this is the Sichuan, soup or whatever. So if they're doing this, why won't they get an earthquake? Geographically, they see that, oh, this is the epicenter of earthquake. You know what's the hypocenter of earthquake? Epicenter means the point on the surface of the earth, which is the center of the entire, the shake, right? Hypocenter is the point directly beneath that in the earth's crust or mantle or whatever, where the actual original shake happened, and that caused the shake on the ground at the top. That is a hypocenter. Even that is not the real cause of the earthquake. It's more subtle than that. It is the karma, the accumulated karma of that place. Wholesale killing. So these things happen. These hellish situations we sometimes see on earth, which actually never should have been on earth in the first place. They should have only been in the hellish planets. But sometimes such glimpses, and it will become more frequent in the Kali Yuga, in this age, because the amount of sins that have been committed is humongous. There's no precedence, this amount of sin that has been committed. So you cannot expect. COVID finished, immediately there was war. Immediately prices went up. Just as we think that something has ended, something else will come. And sometimes we don't even notice. Suffering and killing is going on under the radar. Classic example is abortion. Every year, 73 million abortions. That's not a medical care thing. It is murder. It's murder of children. It's the biggest infanticide there's just nothing comparable. You can combine the entire World War I deaths and World War II deaths. The number of deaths in a year of children in the womb being killed is more than both combined. Every single year. And we don't even think of it as destruction. We don't even think of it as something horrible thing? Nothing. It's just going on in the name of healthcare. That is demonic. Demonic doesn't mean, when there is war, it is visible. It is visible, and then you will have, this is evil. But the bigger evil is when it is in the disguise of good. When the evil comes in the disguise of good, that is the bigger evil, because we can't recognize. Ravan, when he's doing all his nonsense, he is visible, he is a demon, rascal fellow. But when he came as sadhu, Sita could not see. And she, this is sadhu. Some sannyasi came and just in the covering of a sadhu. But he was a rakshas beneath. So, that is very much, because truth is one of the 4 pillars of religion. Satya, Kshama, Shaucha and Tapaha. These 4 are the legs of religion. Okay? That means what? Austerity, cleanliness, mercy and truthfulness. 3 of them are already completely almost gone. Truth is one last thing that is still wobbling on this Kali Yuga. That one leg is still kind of standing. That is also shaky. And the worst form of untruth is to disguise the truth, untruth as truth. I think there's a nice, it's a Western story, but people, I completely forget it. Wait a second. It was something like this. 2 women, okay? One is truth, one is untruth. Okay, so the truth, she went into the well, keeping her clothes aside, and went into the well to bathe. And in the meantime, the untruth came and took her clothes and wore it and went away. The truth's clothes. And now the naked truth, when she comes out, nobody wants to see her. Hey, naked. See. So nobody wants to see the naked truth. They will see the untruth clothed as truth, and that they accept as truth. It's a allegorical story which perfectly sums up this point that the naked truth nobody wants to see. The naked truth of this material world, the clothed truth, when we know that this material world is suffering, but it has some packaging of good, packaging of some happiness, some pleasure somewhere, so we stick on to this material world. But when Kṛṣṇa sometimes gives heavy situations where it is very difficult to comprehend, and then you have to be actually Kṛṣṇa conscious in order to ply through that. That is the naked form of the material world. Like, for example, Prabhupada, after he took sannyas, then all his relatives just disappeared. Nobody bothered about him anymore. Because he has no more money, no more nothing, people just, he's just a reject in the society. So Prabhupada wrote a poem, Vrindavane Bhajan. He sat in Vrindavan and he was writing this song. And there he said, all the relatives that I had and everybody, all of them are just a list of names. They hold no meaning anymore. We used to meet and everything before, but now it's just a list of names. Prabhupada says, all the so-called affection of the family members is only there until you provide for them, otherwise they just will hate you. And even while you're providing, they will still complain. And when you come out, anything, there's this story of Maharaj Anga in Bhagavatam, where I'll show you those 2 verses before we close. This happened to him. He was a very religious person, a great devotee. But his wife was the daughter of death personified. So she was not of a very good character. And so their son, was an extremely cruel boy. And this is what he was doing. That boy was partially in the dynasty of irreligion. His grandfather was death personified, and the boy grew up as his follower. He became a greatly irreligious person. And, after fixing his bow and arrow, the cruel boy used to go to the forest and unnecessarily kill innocent deer. And as soon as he came, all the people would cry, "Here comes cruel Vena, here comes cruel Vena." His name was Vena. And then you see, this is what he does. That boy was so cruel that while playing with young boys of his age, he would kill them very mercilessly, as if they were animals meant for slaughter. Just imagine, you are such a saintly devotee and the son is like that. If he loses a game, he gets angry and just mercilessly slaughters them. After seeing the cruel and merciless behavior of his son, Vena, King Anga punished him in different ways to reform him, but was unable to bring him to the path of gentleness. He thus became greatly aggrieved. The king thought to himself, you see how? Now, this is a very horrible situation to have, right? But you see, because he was a devotee, his thinking, you see how it is. The king thought to himself, persons who have no son are certainly fortunate. Everybody wants son, everybody wants children, and especially son. Persons who have no son are certainly fortunate. They must have worshipped the Lord in their previous lives, so that they would not have to suffer the unbearable unhappiness caused by a bad son. He said this. Then, a sinful son, see his reasoning, a sinful son causes a person's reputation to vanish. His irreligious activities at home cause irreligion and quarrel among everyone, and this creates only endless anxiety. Who, if he is considerate and intelligent, would desire such a worthless son? Such a son is nothing but a bond of illusion for the living entity, and he makes one's home miserable. Okay? Now, let's see the next verse. Then the king thought, a bad son is better than a good son, because a good son creates an attachment for home, whereas a bad son does not. A bad son creates a hellish home from which an intelligent man naturally becomes very easily detached. You see this only, you can have this intelligence only if you are Krishna conscious. No one else can think like this. And if you see the purport of 4:13:39 just now, what I'm showing is the naked form of the naked truth of the material world. It's actually horrible, but with good son, good family, good thing, it is untruth packaged nicely. It is actually painful, because at the end of life, all this attachment that we build up for our family will hurt us at the end of life, and will hurt very badly. So it is better to be detached. In fact, it is said that the best death is to have no one around you. No one. But of course, it is good to have devotees around, because they can chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. But talking about the material family, it's the best death. In the Shastra, in Bhagavatam, it is said, best death is to die when no family members are around. Because when the person is going to die, he cannot express himself so properly, but his feelings, his mind is raging within. And when he sees all these people around him, and that attachment just increases and increases. And and seeing them crying, it hurts his heart, and he's fully immersed in such thoughts. And as you know, whatever you think at the last point of your life, that will determine your next body. So if I'm so attached to family members, again I will take birth in this material world. So it is not worth it. So here in this purport, you see, so according to Smriti Shastra, a child generally follows the principles of his maternal uncle's house. Naranam Matula Karma means that a child generally follows the qualities of his maternal family, especially if he's a boy, and girl, the father's family. If the maternal family is very corrupt or sinful, the child, even though born of a good father, becomes a victim of the maternal family. According to Vedic civilization, therefore, before the marriage takes place, an account is taken of both the boys' and girls' families. If according to astrological calculation the combination is perfect, then marriage takes place. Sometimes, however, there is a mistake and family life becomes frustrating. It appears that King Anga did not get a very good wife in Sunitha because she was the daughter of death personified. Sometimes the Lord arranges an unfortunate wife for his devotee, so that gradually, due to family circumstances, the devotee becomes detached from his wife and home and makes progress in devotional life. It appears that by the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, King Anga, although a pious devotee, got an unfortunate wife like Sunitha and later on a bad child like Vena. But the result was that he got complete freedom from the entanglement of family life and left home to go back to Godhead. So for a devotee, there is nothing inauspicious. Prabhupada's god brother, one of Prabhupada's god brothers was became a guru. Not supposed to, but he became. But he was still a grihastha. Okay? So one day, what happened? He went to the temple, and I think by afternoon he got the news that both his wife and his 15-year-old son are dead in his house. He was wondering what happened. Then he rushed back home, and it came out that his wife has been cheating on him for very long, and he did not even know. She was having affairs with so many men. And then this boy, he was old enough at this point to know what was happening, and he saw his mother do something. And then he threatened mother, I'm going to tell this to father. What she did, she killed him. She killed her own son, and she killed herself after that. And this was a devotee's wife. What he did, he was so depressed, he committed suicide. Prabhupada said he was a fool. Now you may think that, it's so depressing. Yes, I can understand. It's so unfortunate. We may think like that. We may take compassion on it. But Prabhupada said he was a fool. When he knew that this happened, he should just taken sannyas and preached even more vigorously, because he was shown the naked form of the material nature, how cruel actually she is. She only gives us a packaging of so-called goodness, but actually she's very cruel, because after giving us all the attachment of the family, she snatches us from this life, and at death everything is snatched away from us. Or we may live, or our near and dear, they may pass away. So it's not kind. Death is very cruel. So to show the cruelty even before the death, so that you have time to prepare for death, is actually a benediction. So this perspective shift will happen if we are having knowledge. So Kṛṣṇa will bless us with the knowledge if we take to Kṛṣṇa consciousness. I'm sorry, I already overshot the time, but quickly we'll run through that thing and I'll finish this. Okay, so here, Andha Tamitra involves consider the death to be the ultimate end. The atheists generally think that the body is a self and everything is therefore ended with the end of the body. Thus, they want to enjoy material life as far as possible during the existence of the body. Their theory is, as long as you live, you should live prosperously. Never mind whether you commit all kinds of so-called sins. You must eat sumptuously, beg, borrow, and steal. And if you think that by stealing and borrowing you are being entangled in sinful activities for which you will have to pay, then just forget that misconception, because after death everything is finished. No one is responsible for anything he does during his life. This atheistic conception of life is killing human civilization, for it is without knowledge of the continuation of eternal life. This Andha Tamitra ignorance is due to the next layer of ignorance, which is tamas. The condition of not knowing anything about the spirit soul is called tamas. This material world is also generally called tamas because 99% of its living entities are ignorant of their identity as soul. Because in the verse today, aham ajñāna-jaṁ tamaḥ, this ajñāna, this ignorance means these are the layers of ignorance. Almost everyone is thinking that he is this body and he has no information of the spirit soul. Guided by this misconception, one always thinks this is my body and anything in relationship with this body is mine. For such misguided living entities, sex life is the background of material existence. Actually, the conditioned souls in ignorance in this material world are simply guided by sex life. And as soon as they get the opportunity for sex life, they become attached to so-called home, motherland, children, wealth, and opulence. As these attachments increase, moha, the next layer, or the illusion of the bodily concept of life also increases. Thus, the idea that I am this body and everything belonging to this body is mine also increases. And as the whole world is put into moha, sectarian societies, families, and nationalities are created. And they fight with one another. Mahamoha, which is the next layer, means to be mad after material enjoyment. Especially in this age of Kali, everyone is overwhelmed by the madness to accumulate paraphernalia for material enjoyment. These definitions are very nicely given in Vishnu Puran, where it is said, this verse which we've already read before. So when Kṛṣṇa says, aham ajñāna-jaṁ tamaḥ nāśayāmy, these are all the things that will be removed by Kṛṣṇa, and we will fully understand our original position as servant of Kṛṣṇa, and we will make our exit from this material world. Otherwise, we have no chance. So I'll stop it here. Any questions or comments on this verse? Saurav is saying on the live stream, that's why they get corona and not karuna. Mercy. So, all right. So, thank you very much. Jai Srimad Bhagavad-gītā ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande.